These are the complete interviews with the subjects for the documentary Encounters. The only editing performed on the footage are camera cuts, sound correction, and minor color corrections.
You out there watching, you be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it, and it's not going to be the little ice cream cup that you want it to be. Let that be a warning to you. That's going to be like an episode of Batman.
Exactly. It's not that crooked.
No. No.
We don't have it sideways and you climbing up the wall.
Now that would be cool. No.
All right, so we've got these first 4 sightings through '83, and you said stuff continued on through '97-ish.
Until, I think it was 97. It might have been
Until the
98.
tag was
Until the
removed.
tag was removed. But even after that, and if you want me to go into explaining even after that, I will.
Yeah, I believe we will. But
You know.
let's keep it chronological right now. We're in '83.
Okay.
What's next?
Okay, so there was somewhat of a break. After 1983 and that occurrence, that really shook me up. But there was somewhat of a break there for a while. And it went up into, I would say, maybe, 5 years, where at least 5 years passed.
So 88-ish, 89-ish.
Yeah. And I remarried, okay? And so we moved into...
Now, when you remarried, have you told your new wife
No.
about these encounters?
Are you kidding?
You wanted to get married.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. I can... Yeah. No. No way. At this point, so much had happened to me, and I was so confused and I don't know, jerked around, that I just felt I couldn't talk about it. Okay. And whether or not I was being, and this is something too I need to tell you about. One reason why I couldn't talk about it was I felt like I was being repressed about it. There were times when I wanted to sit down and write, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it.
Was this a mental thing or emotional thing, or?
Well, it had to do with, there was something up here that was blocking me from speaking about it and from writing about it. So that disappeared too. See.
And at the time, you said you currently work, or you're currently writing for a newspaper, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, were you a writer as well, even if it was freelance type stuff?
No. I was a working class man.
Okay.
Who did hard physical labor. Who worked out. I worked for the city of Green Acres. And we did road repair, and we did all kinds of strong, manly jobs. So, no, I wasn't a writer. I wouldn't do anything. I was a disc jockey, though. But that's all beside the point.
Yeah.
But at the time, that's what I was doing. I was working. I was remarried. So, and I was big into bowling. Okay, I was a bowling fool, right? So my wife and I, we belonged to bowling leagues, and you know, it was a lot of fun and this and that. And one night we came home from bowling, and we had a 2-bedroom townhouse apartment. And downstairs, when you walked in the front door, to the right was the kitchen. You walked straight ahead, to the right was the dining room. Then you kept walking, and there's the living room. Then to your left was the staircase that took you up to the bedrooms and stuff. And there was a bathroom right there, too, on the ground floor. So we came home, and, you know, she went in the kitchen, and we're both in the kitchen, and we're talking about stuff that happened and this and that. And it was like a kitchen thing that was open to the dining room with a bar right there. You picture that?
Yeah. The opening in the wall.
Yeah, where you could hand stuff through to the dining room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she's here on the left, and I'm here on the right, and we're just talking. And all of a sudden, where the dining room is, we both saw this. All of a sudden, there was like bubbles that started appearing. And I don't know if you remember this, but back then, there was a commercial on TV about this Breck shampoo, and it showed all these bubbles, and it's a little girl, and it showed all these bubbles, and it's a teenager. It shows all these bubbles, and it's a woman. The woman, now she's grown. That's what this looked like. Suddenly there was like bubbles, and it was doing this. And yet it seemed, it was like a doorway. Now, once again, this stuff happens really quick, very quick. So once the bubbles appeared, and we're shocked, we're both looking at it, watching it. Okay, I'm going to have to, this is where you need to get me full length in this one. Okay. Picture a doorway right here, a square doorway. Now, with the bubbles, and we're on the other side over here, with the bubbles appearing, suddenly a doorway appears. Now, there's a being steps out like this, takes a step out of that doorway into our dining room. We both see it. She sees it, I see it. So immediately, I ran around to get around the corner to be able to go to it. By the time I got around the corner, the being had took a step out and then stepped back in, and whoosh, everything was gone. And so, here's what she saw. I turned back around. There's nothing there. And it took me a second. And it was gone. So I turned back around. I looked at my wife. I said, "Did you see that?" And she was terrified. She said, "Yes." I said, "What did you see?" She told me. She said, "I saw a being that looked like a man in a dress suit. And there was a brilliant white light behind him. And I saw kind of like a silhouette, but I could see, it looked like he had a suit on." I said, "Okay, here's what I saw. I saw a being that looked like he was in a military outfit with a brilliant blue light coming from behind him. And I saw a silhouette. But I could see, but it looked like he had a military uniform and a cap on."
And these look human or humanoid?
No, they looked human. But I couldn't see detail of the face, and neither could she. She saw a guy in a business suit. I saw a guy in a military uniform. We saw, see, get it? We saw something, but we didn't see the exact same thing.
Right.
So that, to me, that's dimensional. That was a dimensional encounter where, there's a fourth dimension. And they're right here with us. But we can't see or feel, we can't touch them, we can't smell them, we can't. But they're right here with us.
All right. So you see the being come through, and you said there was a silhouette of another one behind it?
No, that's what. In other words, from the light was shining from behind it,
So you
and
saw the silhouette of the figure come through.
Yeah,
Okay.
but what the detail of that was different with both of us. But she was looking at it from the left, I was looking at it from the right, and we were looking at it like this. So we saw something, but we didn't see exactly the same thing. So that tells me, here's something else it tells me, that whatever that was, it has the power to be able to, in your mind, to change what you've seen, or to be able to put whatever your mind can decipher as what you saw. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's not a shapeshifter. But it's just able to manipulate your thoughts, basically.
Yeah,
to
and what
tell
you
what it
see and
wants.
how you see it.
Right.
So we did see something. We did. And to me...
And you saw the same thing, the same pattern.
Yeah.
Just a different look.
Right. Exactly.
And now you saw like the bubbles forming. Did she
Yeah,
see the bubble
yes,
stuff?
she did.
Okay.
Yes,
so the
she
bubbles
did.
are consistent. Then
Right.
she's seeing more of a white light. Now, you said it was a blue light.
To me, it was
is it like a
blue.
blue-white light? Or was she pretty adamant that it's like a
She said it was a
sunlight?
brilliant white light. White. I saw a blue, like a light blue.
Is your blue like a LED light? Let me ask that.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's still a whitish, but it's blue.
But it was blue.
Okay.
And with her, it was white. But they had on was different. How they were, their appearance.
Yours is military, and hers
was
men
business.
in blackish.
Yeah, no. Hers was like that, and mine was military. So I believe that was a dimensional encounter. And see, at that time, I still had the tag in me.
Now, do you think that was, since we're discussing this was more human,
Yeah.
do you think, in your mind, do you believe that was alien, or do you believe that was government? Time travel? Who knows? I mean,
Yeah, no.
we don't know what we're getting into.
Well, I've always felt like it was the government. And I also feel that the government is involved in the other things too, especially when we talked about the guy taking the tag out and disappearing.
Yeah. Now, we because I don't know all of your story yet, but so we may get into it. Do you think the tag was able to be used by both the government and an alien species?
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised. It's almost as though our government has given them permission.
This is that whole taboo part I was telling you about.
Yeah.
This is what people don't talk about.
That's why I told you. That's why I want to talk to you. Because it's just like the government gave them permission to guinea pig us in exchange for technology. Okay. So, and for different other reasons. What happened could have been an experiment gone wrong on their side. Okay? that particular night. It could have been. But see, I don't know. But now, from that, now, my wife told me, it was a few days later, the next week, that she came home from her, she got off early one day from her job. And when she was the only one that went into the apartment. And when she went to go upstairs, at the top of the stairs, she said, there the guy was, in the suit.
The same person she had seen before.
That she had seen, yeah. And she told me that. And she said that she got out of the house as fast as she could, and she got in her car, and she was, I think she was trying to get to where the office was where I worked.
How long after this other encounter did this happen?
It was like maybe 4 days.
Okay. So same time period.
Yeah, it was, I think, see, that was like a Friday night when that happened, and this happened like on a Monday or Tuesday, the following. It was still fresh in her mind. Mm-hmm. And she was trying to get to the office so they could call me, because I worked for the city of Green Acres, and I was out we were out doing our, we would cruise the city and pick up train,
Yeah.
City worker job. So she was trying to get to the office, and the Green Acres police, they pulled her over for reckless driving, and my truck just happened to come around the corner, and there she was getting a ticket. The guy was ticketing her, so I stopped, and he had already written her a ticket, and he knew me, and I go, that's my wife. He's like, oh my God, I'm sorry. Yeah. Then she told me what happened.
She didn't get pulled because of government. She just got pulled because she was trying to.
She panicked. She was panicking, trying to get away. So she got a ticket, but.
And did she tell the officer what she saw and why she was?
No. He kept asking her why he's speeding. She wouldn't say anything. And so then, but when he found out she was my wife, he goes, oh man, he goes, here. He says, take the ticket and go over to the office. He said, well, he said, I'm sorry, man. He's a really nice guy. Well, but she, and then,
was your wife a believer in possible UFOs at the time? Or?
She was now.
But prior to that, no real discussion
we never
about it.
No, remember I said, I couldn't.
Because you didn't say anything about what you've seen.
But she was now, man. And then I could tell her a little bit about, but she was then. And she didn't want to, we actually moved out of there because of that. She didn't want to go back.
How long afterwards did you move?
Probably about 2 months. Our lease was going to expire. And so we said, oh no, let's get out of here.
Did y'all stay in the same town?
No, we actually moved to, that was Green Acres, which was west of Lake Worth and south of West Palm. And we moved back to West Palm Beach. But no, 2 months later we left. And she didn't want to, she actually, after that, she was afraid to be in the house by herself. But we never saw it again. I never saw anything again after that. In that area. Or in other words, that doorway never opened back up. But 4 days later, that being was at the top of the stairs.
Anything in the bedroom or in the place misplaced that you know of, or
no, nothing was ever touched.
There.
Yeah, nothing was ever touched, which was, or disturbed or anything, and there was no sign of anything. It was more like a spiritual thing than anything else.
It's just because of the topics we're on. Remote viewing type deal where somebody else is remote viewing you? I mean, I don't even know if you believe in remote viewing, but it's one of the topics that's in the same realm.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I've ever had experience with that myself. But I know of it. But anything's possible, I'm telling you. I mean, our government is involved in so much. One thing about it is, of course, they try to, people like me and other people, when we got the courage and finally the nerve to be able to go out and speak about what we experienced and things, there would be operatives in the audience. And I got to be able to recognize them. Because they would only come in and just be there long enough just to hear, just to get the info that they wanted to hear, and then they're gone. Boom. Where everybody else who comes to it, they stay there and they want to meet you and they want to talk to you. They got questions for you. These guys don't have questions. They sit there and they analyze and they take notes, and then boom, they're gone.
What do you think they're doing with that information?
They're taking it back, and they're taking it back to whoever, and like I'm sure they have a file on me, because I've been around, I've been out in public and talked about it now, and like I said, I've learned, and I've been to these conventions, and they're not like, in other words, they're not really trying to do the whole fake story of I'm a UFO nut. They're there to get the info and go.
And still determine whether you're on the fringe or not.
Yeah, I don't know what, they take this info back and they just keep adding it to the file they have on you. Until the time comes when it's time to take you out. And that's where people disappear and never heard from again, or suddenly they've committed suicide. And they're most likely, many cases, they're the least likely person to commit suicide, and they don't have a reason for it. But when they're found, it's, they put it down as it was a suicide.
Now, are you worried about any of this? Especially, we're sitting here doing this, trying to come out even further.
No. You know what? I think at this point now, with the government, with our government admitting they're not pursuing that kind of thing anymore, because it's no longer, they're not covering it up.
It's no longer a sinister.
Right. They're not trying, they know people like me exist that's been through a lot of things, a lot of different things. They don't want to admit it. And of course, they still don't admit Roswell is the truth. They're just saying, yeah, they do. We're admitting UFOs exist. We don't make them. They're not made on this planet. There's not anybody. It belongs to China or anybody. They're admitting it.
Yeah.
But so I don't think it's to the point like it used to be.
The thing that amazes me is they are admitting it, but it's almost like everybody is saying, "So what?" It should be the top story, and it's fallen flat. It feels like, and I think that actually makes the government happy that it's fallen flat. We can say anything, and they really don't care. That's what they're saying, what they're thinking.
Well,
and that's where it leads me into this abduction stuff is, and these close. When I don't want to say close encounters, I want to say like actual encounters, not just seeing a light in the sky.
Yeah.
That this would be the part that would scare the government, because, again, this is the taboo topic. This is the stuff that you don't mention online.
All right. So, as far as them really being concerned about that now. I think they're concerned about if they're somehow connected to people being abducted and being experimented on and being this and that. I think they are concerned about that because I don't think they really want us to know that they are as diabolical as they really are. The government will go to any means it can to get technology, to be able to use alien technology to have power over. It's all about power, to be able to have weaponry or technology that's way above our adversaries. But then they're doing the same thing too. So,
that's the aliens aren't picking sides.
No, they're not. I don't believe they are, and I think they're interested in humans because I don't think we're a species that's anywhere else in the whole galaxy. And
that's one thing I mentioned in the film is Earth is a great big cosmic petri dish. I mean, you go to Mars, you don't see 80 billion life forms.
No.
Here, I mean, we've got more different species living, and that's only, 10%, 5% of all the species that's ever lived here, according to science. We've got more different species than we've even had signals of something else that we've been able to prove.
Right.
All right. Well, let's go back. We're 1988, 89ish.
Yeah.
Anything after that?
Oh, well, sure. I'm not done.
I had a feeling that was going to be the answer.
I'm not done, man. So now, okay. So in the 90s, I joined a UFO research group, and this is kind of where I suspected now that the operatives were showing up at these, because it was advertised and announced and things like that, and I had a feeling that after talking, being on stage and talking and being able to look at people, listen, I went to college too, and my major was psychology. So I could read body language. And, so there were certain people that, and in fact, a couple of times I noticed the same person, that would show up at these little meetings.
All right, we're rolling on both. All right, so psychology, and you're able to kind of pick up on the body language,
on the people
demeanors.
I call them operatives because they're the ones who would come in, sit down, take out a little notepad, and as I'm talking, I'm looking around. I make eye contact with a lot of people, and they wouldn't want to make eye contact, and
do you think they're trying to separate the ones that really have had encounters with the quote crazies out there that want to be?
Now, I've had experiences with what I call the space gypsies. Okay? When I worked at the Science Museum in the planetarium and did the shows and whatever, there was this man and woman. The man was supposed to be the son of this Venetian. and his name was like Jor-El or something like that, and she was Andromeda. And these people were older than me, and they would be on the radio, the local radio talk shows, and they were ridiculed all the time, and they had these like fantastic straws that were supposed to give you this energy and these crystals that gave you strength, and see, there's people like that tarnish they take away from people like me who have really, been involved in experience and been through what I've been through. And yet here they're wanting to put on shows and, be on the radio, and they're ridiculed on the radio. The guy says, "Oh, you can't tell me." They bring in a big poster, and I'm sure it's one you've seen. It looks like a big giant Christmas ornament or a hubcap. And it's like it's close to the camera, and in the background is a little house, and they're like, "Oh," and the guy goes, "You can't tell me that's not a Christmas tree ornament," and they're just like, but and that makes us look bad. And I call them, they're the space gypsies. And what they do is they're different people that go around and they cash in on the UFO phenomenon, if you want to call it that, and they try to make a living at it, and they're like gypsies. They call it, if they get to be friends with you, they want to camp out on your couch for a night while they're in town doing a free show or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and that's another side of all this that makes it difficult for people like me that want to tell the truth, because now our truth turns into a sideshow.
All mixed in, exactly. And that's one thing, one reason I'm doing this series is you've really got to get the stories so we can figure out what's real, what's not.
Yeah. And see, and what I'm telling you is the truth as I see it and how it happened to me, and this is for real. And let me tell you, aliens, they're for real. And what they've done to me is not just a physical thing they did, but it was totally psychological and mind blowing. Like I mentioned earlier to you, I never wished for anything like this at all, ever. I had no idea what was going to happen. Anything about it. It was the farthest thing from my mind. And then there for a while, I was scared and worried. It did that to you. And it also made you distrust people. Because you don't know, strangers and things, you don't know what's their motive, and that's not right. That's not how humans should treat each other. So, see, I went through that until finally I was able to get over that fear that they instill into your heart. And it's scary. And when, just thinking about it and what the possibilities of could happen. So, the part about the operatives and the government, yeah, it's true, but they don't want to be involved. They don't want anyone to know what they're involved with as far as dealing with aliens. And back in the 90s, there was a guy, I knew his first name was Phil, and he was a contractor, builder, who worked for our government. And out west, one of the states out west, they were going to build some kind of base or something. It was a military thing, I believe, and they would drill down so many feet, 1,000 feet into the ground to you start the construction of whatever they were doing, and he actually had an encounter down inside that one of those holes with aliens, and they had a firefight with him and the aliens and other military people. And he
Which side were the military people on?
They were on the human side. And the way that they had to lower you down into this hole that they drilled, it was kind of like an elevator that they put down on ropes or whatever, and you had to stand up. And when he got to the bottom, there was these aliens, he said, appeared to look like they were lizards, like giant reptilian, and that there was the other military guys is what saved his life. The one guy, he said, this one alien took his hand like this and went like that, and this beam went and it just cut anybody in half or whatever. And he said he put his hand up like this, and it cut off his fingers on his one hand. And you could see it. You could see where it went just like that. And this military guy, he got killed, and he pushed Phil back onto the elevator, and it went up then. But see, the government knew about that, you see. So the government was allowing the aliens to be down there doing whatever they were doing, and they believes in exchange for certain technologies. So I never met the man, but I did hear about him, and I did see plenty. I saw several of his like conventions that he did, where they were filmed. That's how I got to see him, because he later, years later, he was found dead in his apartment, and they said it was suicide. Okay? But how he did it, they said he had a catheter. And somehow or other, he strangled himself with his own catheter. You see, so that's a problem with our government being suspected of,
Yeah.
Plus, the thing in his case was he had friends who had worked with the government, who actually got out of it. And then they showed up, too, as being died in an accident or suicide. And then eventually the same thing happened to him.
Well, back to, after 88, you said it was early 90s?
Yeah. So tell you what, let's go to my house.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Fine.
We'll continue there.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
We'll do that. All right.
You're going to have to refresh me where we were, okay?
Okay, I can do it. All right, so we've moved over to your house, and basically we had finished talking about 88, that encounter, and
So
your wife had doubled up on the encounter. She had seen it.
Yeah.
And then we had talked about the space gypsies that go to these conventions, and
Yeah.
how the contact you had made when you had decided to start going to the UFO conventions.
Right.
So after 88, you said somewhere in the 90s, early 90s?
Yeah, it was like, I don't know, probably 91 or so, 92. I actually I met somebody there who seemed very interested in, and they actually lived in another town that was close to my town. And at this time, we kind of became friends, you know, and he was kind of a quiet and shy person, and seemed kind of reclusive. But we were friends, you know, in things. And so after some years, he came out and he revealed to me, when he was young, he was recruited into this governmental organization whose purpose was to eliminate enemies of our government.
And this is like foreign governments or people within the country? Don't know.
It was anybody. And he was very young, and that's what they were looking for. And he was debriefed once you got to be a certain age, you were debriefed and you were sent out in public life then. And that's what happened to him. However, the debriefing caused these people, including himself, to have lifetime mental problems that turned into physical problems, that changed their whole life around, and just made where certain parts of them would no longer function. And that's the debriefing. And what he did was it would be a group. They would be assigned to a city. They'd be given a target. They would be given the target's schedule. They would go into the business or building or wherever as a cleaning company. And if that building or business had their own cleaning company, they had that night off. And they would go in, and if this person was there, and they would know they were there or not, because if they weren't there, they wouldn't be there. But a lot of these people that were enemies of the state or of the country were taken out by they were assassins.
It wasn't an assassination such as like with MLK or Malcolm X.
No,
this was something.
They were never seen or heard from again. And his job was to do the abduction. And then the next thing you know, this person is reported as a missing person. Okay? So there is such a thing. I know. I met one, and I would ask him, can you remember? And he could not remember the name of anybody that he was involved in taking out. The debriefing was so intense for these guys that it ruined them psychologically and physically. Ruined them. And he was still, he was in his, I guess he was like 52 at the time when he was telling me, but he could not recall anything.
Now here's the weird question. How would this relate to aliens and alien abductions?
Ah, very good question. Well, there's been thousands of people that have just disappeared. And a lot of these people, like, tried to, they tried to get the word out that they knew something or they knew of somebody, and now they're gone, or they were involved in an accident and they're dead now, or they suddenly died. So, and these people could be UFO researchers or doctors or lawyers or even people in the entertainment business have been taken out. So it does relate. If you go back, pull up missing persons from the 70s, and you'll see. And if you look deep into their background, some of them may have somewhat of it'll show a little bit of what they were doing, and there's your clue right there. They would get so close that the government is like, we got to take them out. We can't let this get out. Okay?
Yeah, so it's not, the assassinations aren't just, again, like the MLK or the Malcolm X's, but anything that just goes too close to something that they don't want.
Exactly, that they don't want known. If you get too close and it looks like you're gonna expose something, they don't take.
And they don't have time to discredit you and make you
No,
look crazy.
yeah, because
then they got to.
Then you're taken out by this operative group that poses as whatever. Now they could not only be a cleaning company, but they could be a lot. They could be a car salesman. They could be. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They got people everywhere. Of course, look, I ain't worried because my life's almost over. So, and they're not going to fool with me anyway, because I'm a fat old hippie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, this guy? Oh yeah.
You know stuff, but you're not coming on the cusp of knowing that extra bit, so that they're able to. They can handle discredit because they know that you're not.
They know me being out in public talking about my experiences that are still unexplainable to them. So, look, all this guy's doing is he's just telling stories. That's the way they put it, And
All right, so somebody active like me that's trying to bring these stories to light, does that mean I need to worry?
well, I don't know. I mean, it depends on how close you get.
If I get hold of the right person, then it could be trouble.
Well, it just depends on how you're going to deal with the knowledge that you have. Like with me, it's like my own knowledge is just through my own experience, and that's all I can tell you. I don't have, and I can't. What can I back it up with? I can back it up with witness if there's a witness there, which there has been in several of what I told you. But a lot of it was just me, and so, it's like, it's sleep apnea or whatever. Oh, he was dreaming, or he shouldn't have watched The Day the Earth Stood Still for the 20th time, Yeah. There's some kind of way to discredit you simply, But if I had worked for the government, like some of these people have, Bob Lazar, you familiar with him?
I am.
Okay, I'm like him a lot. My story doesn't change over the decades. It doesn't change. Like him, his story doesn't change. That's one way you know too, if somebody is telling you the truth. The story doesn't change. You could go and follow this person around to all these conventions and speaking opportunities, whatever, and you can listen to them and see them, and their story never changes. Those are the ones you believe, that are believable. And they'll swear like I will. I'll swear on a stack of Bibles. It's the truth, God's honest truth, that what I've experienced to me is real. You know, so.
The encounters that you had through 88, did you have any more encounters after that?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's hit the next one.
Okay, so, and this would have been the last one before the tag was taken out. And it would have been probably in 1996, probably.
Okay, so about a year before the tag.
Yeah, because I can't remember. I can't recall for sure. It was 97 or 98 when that tag was removed. So I would say probably late 97, and then it was 98 when I went to look for the guy, the doctor, and he was gone, and that was the end of that. So, but yeah, I'd say it was probably about 96.
And before we go to that encounter, have you thought about doing, like a whole body X-ray to see if there's anything else?
No.
And usually, doctors aren't going to just X-ray you for no reason anyway.
I mean, I've got.
I need to see if I got a tag in me, if I got a chip in me.
Yeah.
You need to see the psychologist down
They're
there.
They're gonna send me off to the psych first.
Yeah.
And be analyzed by that person. Which
It is interesting that it was seemingly organic. That way it doesn't get picked up on MRIs, which of course back in the 70s you didn't have MRIs.
Yeah. So, but then this was 90s when it was actually discovered. So, but it was it was a biological living. Kind of something living, but somehow, and I don't understand, because I've seen stories, and I remember the guy, the one doctor, there used to be a famous doctor who started taking out implants, and he died. Now see, here's another thing. All these researchers and people, professors and physicists, they've died, and no one is picking it up where they left off. Nobody's replacing. And that's strange. That's very strange. But getting back to what you were to 96, it was another one of those go to bed things, and I was living alone. I was living in a mobile home park, and I had my own mobile home. I think I'd been living there.
Again in Florida?
Yeah, this was in West Palm Beach.
Okay, still West Palm Beach.
Still West Palm Beach, and I it was one of them go to bed things again at night, and they came again, and it was pretty much the same thing.
Still 5 beings?
I think this time there were 6.
Okay.
There were 6, and one of them seemed taller than the others. And he's the one, I don't know let me say it. It was the one that actually how do I put this? He talked to me, but it was here the thought came to me.
Was it more of a thought, or more of it seemed like you were hearing it?
It was more of a thought that came to me. And he was asking me if will I go with them? Will you go with us? And I kept hearing that, will you go? But once again, I couldn't move. And my arms were like this on the bed, and I was kind of like this. And I felt, and I just shut my eyes, and once again, I was afraid. Actually, I know I said before I wasn't afraid, but that night I was afraid because of what came in my head. that said, will you go?
This is something I've never heard from people that have had the same type of process where they are embedded with a thought like that. Was there an accent to it? Was it perfect English? Was it Shakespearean? Was it like if somebody down the street?
It was like, it was my voice.
Asking yourself.
Yeah, it was like me. It wasn't like you said, it was nothing. It was like, you know, when you think to yourself and you think a thought, that's what it was.
Okay.
But it kept coming over and over, and I was like this, and I shut my eyes, and I was kind of this time I was afraid because I didn't know where this was going to go, and then once again, it just seemed like it was a minute where it was actually probably about a half hour where there was a time loss of a half hour, and then I can't recall anything. It was just being like this, and the thought in my head, and then being able to wake up and sit up at the bed and look at the clock, and it was, like, I don't know, 5 a.m. or something, but I felt tired. I felt like I had been running, like I had ran.
Were you trying to catch your breath at all, or
I was just,
you were just
my body,
your muscles
my
had the
yes, yeah, like I had been tensed or whatever, but when I came to and sat up in the bed, I felt sore. But I went in, took a shower. I didn't see any marks. I looked for marks, and there was nothing. But here's the thing. Here's the twist on this one. Okay. Okay. So I put that on I went the next day or whatever, and I was able to write it up, and then eventually I put it on the National UFO reporting site. And then I noticed that on the same day, at the same time, somebody 5 or 6 miles away had come out of one of these all-night convenience stores where they went to buy cigarettes, and they looked in the direction of where I lived, and they saw a craft.
Now, did you report this anonymously or through your name?
Well, they don't.
I'm not sure which platform you were on at the time. So.
The National UFO Reporting Agency, and no, they don't put your name out there, but they have my name, the place. But when they do the report, they don't put your name. Anybody's name, nobody's name. They put it out anonymously.
This is something I could search in '96 for West Palm Beach, though, and come up with both.
See, here's the thing. I was trying to find my paper. I know I have it, and I printed that out to show you. It's here somewhere, but I'll find it.
Right.
So, just give me. I've looked everywhere today, and I don't.
I mean, if you find it, you can always make a copy of it and send it to me, or email it to me, something like that.
Yeah, well, that's what I plan to do. And plus, I had pictures that I had drawn and those are all in that too. So, but anyway, I found to be able to validate what I had told. I had that with me when I would go talk about that last experience. Somebody that same night during that same time saw a craft in my direction.
The beings this time, you said there were 6, one's taller, so you got 5 that's maybe 3.5 foot tall.
Yeah,
still.
It was the same business about coming around the bed, but the taller one was the one that was closest to
And
me.
that's more than likely the one, or that's one you felt was communicating with you?
Yeah, that's the one I felt, because he looked a little different. He was taller and he looked slightly different than them.
How much taller than the other one?
Oh, he was about 1.5 feet or so taller.
5 feet-ish?
I would say 5 feet-ish. And his head was a little more slender, and he had a little more definition in his jaws and his face. His eyes were like them, but kind of turned a little more. But I only did.
Would you say it's a different species, or would you say it's just the difference between going into the insect world, the queen and the worker?
Yeah, that's how I would compare it to. Would be that.
Okay.
Was that
They're the same thing, it's just the other ones aren't the leader.
Right, and to me, he was the. See those other the little grays. They never. They would never. I never got any vibes from them, but I did from this one. So it tells me maybe they are like robotic thing, that they are the workers, like the queen and the worker,
Okay.
and he had the brain and the intelligence to. Okay, that's where I come off with that. So that happened about maybe a year or so, maybe not even a year before that was, and it was funny because after they took the tag out and I thought back to when that happened, it was almost like they knew what was going to happen, and they were there, and they were asking me to go with them. You see.
Now, did you have a sense of benevolence or?
Well, I always felt, I was afraid, but then I wasn't afraid. It's kind of a strange kind of a feeling that they never hurt me, so I never really was afraid, but that night I was afraid. And it probably was because of this one being so more powerful maybe, or more, more in control of than.
Yeah. The other report of the spacecraft that was in your direction, do you remember what they said that spacecraft looked like? Was it a flying saucer, or was it a cigar shape?
I think they said it was cigar shape. But see, it was one or the other. But it was something that they could see from 5 miles away.
Yeah.
And see, that would authenticate what I told, what happened to me that night. And that's the only thing that happened to me where there was something else, saw the craft, but it coincided with the time with what happened to me.
How quickly did you report it to the reporting center? I mean, is this something that over the years you said? Let's report it?
Well, so I didn't really start doing that until about 2000.
I mean, you couldn't do it so early just simply because of
See,
the time
I
frame
don't-
of when you have internet.
I think I had to wait until 2000.
Yeah, because even through '88, we didn't really have internet. We had bulletin board systems back then.
Yeah.
Dial-up bulletin board.
Well, I had remember Web TV.
Yeah.
I had that, but I didn't get that until 2001.
Yeah.
So I didn't start actually reporting things until I think 2000.
Now, did you have anything? All right, so you had your last thing before the pearl was taken out of your.
Yeah.
You said it was which heel?
Right.
Right heel. Anything since then?
Well, I've had sightings. I've seen things.
But nothing
Not
communicating or
No.
encountering directly with you.
No, but there were other people with me that saw the same thing. For a while, while I was still here, I moved to Ohio and lived in my hometown for about 8 years. But let me talk to you about the last thing that I saw here in Florida.
Okay.
This would have been probably about 3 months before I actually moved to Ohio, which would have put it in 2011, I'd say probably March 2011. I was still with the UFO research group, and we took a field trip to Fort Pierce Beach, and we had somebody was visiting us there for, they did night watch where they did use the like the, what do they call that, X-ray vision, or no, it was like, it's got that
Like,
grip.
like the infrared type stuff?
That's
Okay.
it. I couldn't think.
I got you.
but and so he had binoculars that were like that, and so we would we went to the beach and to lay down and just look, because there's no light, and we could look out straight over the water and stuff. And I want to tell you something. They gave me a pair of binoculars, and I saw some of the stuff I saw. It was absolutely unbelievable. With the naked eye, you couldn't see a thing. But with these binoculars, I saw a chevron. It was huge. And it was, it's like a boomerang, like this. Mm-hmm. And the thing was friggin' huge. But it was way, and it was going real slow like this. It was over us. And plus there was all kinds of things flying in and out and like this, back and forth. And I was laying down and I was yelling to everybody, saying, "Look at this, look over here, look there." And it was so bad, the guy got irritated with me. So he threw me a pointer. He goes, "Here, point out what you see to other." So I started doing it. And a laser pointer, you know. And so now other people are like, "Oh my God, there's these, we don't know what they are." And so with the naked eye that night, like a green orb, it flew in from the ocean, and it came.
And this is green through the night vision.
Yeah, that's it, night vision. And I took my night vision off, and yet I could still see this orb come in from over the ocean. It came down and it flew over the city. And there was this gal behind me, and I was yelling, and I had my pointer, and she saw it too with her naked eye. So, and then a lot of people that were there, they couldn't see anything.
I want you to keep telling the story to this camera. I'm going
Okay.
to change batteries over here, but I'm still listening because I don't want to stop you from this.
So there was people there that couldn't see anything, and yet I was seeing all kinds of stuff. So it was just absolutely incredible.
And they're all on night vision also. It's
Yeah,
just that
yeah.
They don't see it.
And they don't see it. So, and I'm trying my best with this pointer to point to put it right on where it is, and they still don't see it. So, to me, because you have been involved with them, when I say them, I'm referring to aliens. I think that you, even though I no longer had this tag in me, because I had been experiencer or been involved with them, that you pick up on it now because of that. That you're susceptible to that vibration and to that energy, and you can see it where others can't see it.
Because you've been exposed to that dimension.
Absolutely. Yeah, see, you got it. You try to explain it to other people, and they're like, "Nah, you're full of it," So no, and that's what happened. That was the last thing that I kind of like encountered before I moved to Ohio. And I moved there in 2011. And in 2012, the next year, my cousin and I lived in Hamilton, which is a little town that's northwest of Cincinnati. And we were coming from Oxford, which is college town, University of Miami, who just played over the weekend, and who lost. But yeah, I mean, I was a University of Miami fan. Yeah, you know. So we were coming back from there, and it was my cousin with me in the front seat of the car, and we were down this lonely, desolated road. You know, nobody else is around. But what was funny was it was a very clear night. And you could see Orion, the constellation Orion, over here to the left as we're driving down the road this way. And I noticed that it seemed pretty bright. And while I'm driving, I'm looking like this, and I'm noticing it appears like there's stars coming out of the constellation of Orion. And so we got up to a road where we turned, and now this is a shortcut to Hamilton. So it's out in the country, it's kind of hilly like this, you know. Yeah. And so we came up on this hill which brought you down here, and then you went back up like this. Well, when we got here, over here now, coming down is this glowing object. It's glowing, it's white. It looks like a star, but it's coming down. So when we got down here at the foot of that hill, I stopped the car. And this object came, now here's the top of the hill here, we're down here. It came within 20 feet of the road, and it was moving like this. It was shaking, and it was moving like this. And what it was shaped like a bell. And shaped like a bell, and now this is very weird here.
And tall like a bell.
Tall like a bell. It was like a bell, shaped like this. It was bigger than your truck. Okay? And with what you've got on your truck, it was taller than that. And it was wider than the length of your truck. And it came down, and it was moving in a jerky motion like this. And it kept coming down and down and down. And so when it got over the road, it illuminated the road underneath it.
Now, is light coming from all around it or just from underneath?
This is really weird. The light, it was like giant light bulbs that were all over it. And they were red and blue and yellow, and red and blue and
they're
yellow.
They're moving around.
It's not the same color. It's changing. The whole thing is changing.
Something like it's emitting light, right?
A what?
It's shining a light from it like that.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's emitting it.
But they're moving around like a laser show where they have the
light.
Okay.
But
it's emitting rather than being shined on.
Right, it's emitting the light, and like this one up here will be red, and then this one will be blue, and then this will be blue, and this will be red and yellow, and it's like it's moving all around. But the road below, because I stopped the car and got out, I just stopped it in the middle of the road, and there was nobody, and got out and was looking at it straight on. And it was like 13 feet above the road, and you could see it lit up the road below it. And it was moving. It was moving like this. It was going, and it was shaking like this. And
it would move. It would shake.
And it would
pause, but still shake, and then
it would move
like
a little.
Jerky type
it was a jerky moving. And the hill the road that it went up to, now the hill went down like this. So, and it kept coming down and down and down. And so I turned around and I looked at my cousin, and he was in the car, and he was like this. And I ran around, I got in the car. I said, "Did you see that?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, oh my God, where did it go?" So we raced to the top of the hill. Well, by the time we got to the top of the hill, we couldn't, it was gone. And there was no way there was no road for us, no way for us to take to go in that direction to where it went, down into like a valley. But it was gone, man. There was, oh yeah, here's another thing. When we first saw it, and it was coming down like this, all of a sudden, all of the wildlife shut up. The crickets and everything.
Just dead silence.
Dead silence. Everything shut up.
Wind,
no
wind.
The
skies were clear, but no wind.
Clear, no wind. But when I first got out of the car, you could hear the bugs and the crickets, and everything shut up when it started coming down. See, nature and animals and things, and they're susceptible to this energy that these things emit. If I don't know if you've heard this before, but nature will go silent.
Well, it's just like cats can see a different wavelength than we can. I understand that type thing. Yeah.
So
and light, as far as what I know, all light is waves. I mean, it can be particles if you count but they're waves. Well, so is sound. We can't see sound. It's still a wavelength.
Right.
Infrared is just a wavelength we can't see with our eyes. That's why we use night vision goggles to see
infrared.
That type
right.
of stuff.
Yeah.
And ultraviolet, same way.
Yeah.
About what time of night did this happen?
I'd say probably about 11:30.
And this was what time of year? Was it a football game?
Yeah, it was coming back from a football game. So it was in the fall.
October, November, something.
Yeah. I think it was November.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it might have been early November or something. Anyway, we were coming back from a football game.
Just out of curiosity, you remember who played?
No.
Okay. Because I can tell a date.
I know Miami did, and they lost, but it was still a hell of a lot of fun. But that's what I'm saying. You don't know. You never know when something like this is going to happen right in front of you. You don't know it. You never know it.
Have you had any experiences since that one?
Yeah, I had. There was one more while I lived in Ohio, and I was at home, and my next door neighbor saw it, and so did this kid that cuts grass in the neighborhood. And it was about 6 o'clock, and this was it was still light. It was back probably when in September when it got dark, about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and looking to the west, my next door neighbor and I were standing at my fence talking, and then here comes this neighborhood kid who's always cuts yards, and he was coming up to ask to cut my yard, and we looked to the west, and here we saw one of the weirdest things we ever saw.
You said this is what time?
It was probably, it might have been 6:30.
Still light outside?
Yeah, it was light. And this was daylight. And we looked to the west, and here we saw this tricolored giant, what looked like starfish. Giant starfish.
5 legs.
I guess, yeah. And it was colored, different colors, and it looked spiny. I mean, it looked like a giant starfish. Okay. And it had different colors, like there would be like an orange, and then a red, and then a yellow to like the middle, and then out like, and blue and this and that. And it was moving. I don't know how fast it was moving, but it came down. It was at a certain level of. Seemed like it was miles away, but just above the treetops.
Okay, you're saying the starfish, and you're specifically saying a starfish and not a star. So not pointed.
No.
It's more rounded.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it looked like it was moving. From our point of vision, we could see that it was right above treetops that were like down at the end of the street. And it kept just getting smaller and smaller like this and going down and down. And so when I saw it, I said, "Look." And so my neighbor turned, and the neighborhood boy turned, and my neighbor goes, "Oh my God, I got to go get my binoculars." So he went back home to get his binoculars, and by the time he got back, it was gone. But the boy that was standing there with me, he looked at it and for a while, and he turned around and said to me, "What is that?" You know, he saw it too. And so by the time my neighbor got back with his binoculars, it had gone down, and it kept getting smaller and smaller, and then I guess it just disappeared where we couldn't see it anymore.
And smaller meaning it was moving away from you.
That's what I mean. That's, yeah, it just...
And how big do you think it was?
Oh my God, it had to be... It had to be huge, man. It had to be as big as, I'd say, maybe a 30-story building.
Oh crap! Yeah. And is that like from one leg to the end of the next leg?
Because just briefly we could see the whole thing, but it kept moving and it kept going like this then. So that told me it was moving to the west.
Now you're looking at it. Is it flat?
No, it's standing up.
Okay.
It's like this.
Okay.
And
then it's got each of its
so
to speak.
Yeah, and that's when we saw it was like spiked.
Gotcha.
And I got to tell you something. Only one time in my life have I ever seen a video of the exact same thing I saw that was on a UFO documentary on TV.
Okay.
One time. But that's exactly what we saw.
And you said it was red to orange.
It was like
all the way to yellow.
Yeah. It's like the center of it was kind of yellow.
Did it emit light, or was it just?
It was just colorful.
Was it?
You know
how like you have an oil slick and you have the iridescence. Is that the type of look to it where it looked metallic, or?
You know, it didn't even. To me, it didn't look metallic either. It didn't look metallic, but who knows? I mean, you know. But the sun was right on it. You know.
The sun's behind you, shining towards.
Yeah, see, the sun was back behind us, and it was right on it because the sun now it was getting ready. You know, not much longer to set. So it was
mostly easterly is where it was located from your point of view.
Yeah.
I mean, it's setting in the west, so yeah, it's been easterly.
Yeah.
I have to see if I can find something on that.
And I would say that was a couple years before I moved. So that would have been in 2000. I'm going to say 2017. Because I left there in 2019, and I came here then. But since I've been back to Florida, I haven't had I haven't seen anything even off in a distance, or nothing's happened, period.
And again, you said you haven't had what you think of any encounters with government officials or the such that have tried to keep you...
Not that I know of, but...
Usually they'll let you know.
Yeah.
From what we hear.
Yeah, so I don't know. I do know, I know a lot, especially from my friend in Ohio that was the operative.
Right.
But I have to tell you, that's not one that I spread around too much.
And I'm not ignoring you, I'm just trying to look through here to see if there's anything I see as far as imagery related to a starfish type thing. It had 5 legs, you think?
Yeah, I think it had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like this. Yeah.
Like the one there? And it's a drawing, but.
That's it.
Right here.
That's it.
That is?
Yeah. That's it.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Except the colors are different.
Yeah.
But
that's
But
it's
that's-
rounded on the ends, thin
Yeah.
legs coming off.
right, that's
And
it.
not really a bulky center, just everything coming together.
Right. But that's it.
Oh, that's-
But I had to put them on to look at.
You're
Huh?
allowed to wear glasses.
Yeah, I know, but I prefer not to, really. So that's everything.
What do you? Well, you said around 2000 is when you first talked about this, other than to like your second wife
Right,
and the people that were there with you on the different experiences.
right.
I mean, did you ever tell anybody about the beings around your bed before 2000 that you recall?
No.
And you said you started reporting to the center when?
It was after 2000.
It was okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Or 2000 or after. And
did you kind of just sit down and say, you know what, I'm going to report all this and do them all at one time, or did you just?
I tried to sit down and do them all at once, but I think it took me a couple days.
Yeah.
And finally, I could talk about it, and I could write about it, because I tried before and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And the first time that I did talk about it was I was able to write about it. And so then I tried to talk about it. And that would have been in 2003 in Vero Beach, Florida, at the UFO club that I belonged to there.
Did you go to any of the UFO clubs or anything prior to 2000?
No. No, I had to keep it to myself.
Yeah.
Except for those that were part of it. And
Once you came out, I mean, did you tell family and friends about it, or did you just kind of basically do it at the meetings?
I tried to, but
Did they look at you like you were crazy or something like that, or?
yeah.
So, and the meetings allow you to
Well,
like-minded people, I guess.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. You just can't talk to anybody about this kind of stuff, because right away they have a preconceived opinion that they don't exist, and right away I even have had people that I'm still friends with, and I have wanted to try to talk to them, and you know what the first words out of their mouth are? I don't believe in UFOs, and that's it. So that's it. There's no sense in going any further. You can't, even though you might want to talk about something that happened to you, they don't want to hear about it. Now, who does that sound like? Okay? So, talking to family and talking to my first wife. Look what she did. She laughed and ridiculed me about it. And that affected me. You know what? That affected our relationship, the rest of our marriage. That's what she thought of me. I don't want to be with somebody like that. Would you?
No, I mean, you're there to help the other person through, even if she thought you were hallucinating.
Yeah, well,
You would expect your partner to be there, and
but it was like I don't want to hear it. So what do? You don't talk about it. I wouldn't talk about it unless somebody brought it up to me.
right.
And there weren't that many people that would bring that subject up.
Now, allowing me to record, and do this interview with the what do you expect out of it? What do you think? What do you think will help you, or what do you think will help other people from it?
I hope it brings more people out. I hope it gives people courage to talk about what happened, regardless, and not be afraid. Because now's the time to do it, because everything is starting to come out. And to me, what's happening is a form of disclosure by our government now. They're not going to let everything out all at once, because they've assessed that we're not going to be able to handle it. And it's going to affect a lot of our institutions like churches and religion. So, and those are institutions that control people and have control and power. And once this gets out and the truth comes out, they won't have that control and power anymore. So a lot of this is about that. So I would encourage people, you have to find your own way to do it, just like I did. But I'm not afraid to talk anymore. They can come and get me. Beam me up, Scotty.
Now, okay, let me ask you that. You go to bed at night, and 2 o'clock in the morning, you open your eyes and you can't move, and you got 6 beings, and that same taller figure's there beside you, and he says, "You want to go now?" What would be the answer?
I'll go. I would go. Because
you're not scared of what they are anymore. You just
no, not anymore. I don't know. I don't know what my purpose would be. I don't know why they'd want me. Listen. I'm far beyond the childbearing age. So, I mean, I don't. But in this day and age, and right now, in the time we're in, I'd gladly go. I'd be gone in a second. And you'll know if I'm gone, because when you call me, I won't answer.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of any loose ends I've left, because I've tried to ask some detailed questions that you normally don't hear in interviews as well.
Yeah.
The creature that you saw in the parted clouds, would you say it's the same thing that you saw in the bedroom?
Very similar.
Would it be more similar to the smaller version or the taller version?
The taller one. Yeah. It could have been him, you see.
Yeah.
And in a way, I've kind of felt it was.
Yeah. I don't know. What else you got?
I guess that's it. I mean,
just. I mean, hopefully it's going to help out some people to want to come out and talk. So.
I hope it does. I mean, I'd encourage you, if you could, to do it, because we need to know. Everyone needs to know that right now we're in an age of disclosure. The only problem is, I think the reason why the government doesn't want to talk about this stuff, abduction stuff, is because they're involved in it. And
again, that's the taboo part.
That's
the part that.
That's really the part, I believe, that's gotten so many people to disappear or to suddenly die or commit suicide. Because they got too close and they were about to reveal too much. So there's a couple good books I want to show you that you should read. Okay, I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
Okay.
That's pretty interesting. I don't know if you remember this, but this is the original Look magazine from back in, I think it was 1967. about flying saucer. They did a special issue on flying saucers. You know, and this was some of the researchers and people that first, you know, made the first witness story about it. You know, this is a famous, the Lubbock Lights.
And that's one of the first chevrons, if I remember right.
There you go. See it? There it is. And that's what I saw with the night vision goggles.
When you saw the chevron with the night vision goggles, did you see the different lights on it, or did you just see the shape?
I saw the shape. I could see the shape was defined.
Okay.
Yeah. But as far as, it didn't really look like, I mean, the shape was there, but I didn't really see the lights like this. So, but yeah, this is like a famous, real old issue, and I was lucky enough to find it. I remember as a teenager seeing it on the newsstand when I was a kid, but this has got stories about a lot of different, see here they thought it was Russian satellite that crashed and all this kind of stuff, and I guess you've heard of Kecksburg. I've been there.
Uh-huh.
And every year they celebrate that, and they have a alien walk and stuff like that. But yeah, this is a classic. This is a really, really good book about abduction. This was written by Bud Hopkins, who's now deceased. And he was actually an artist, and he began regressing, hypnotizing people, regression back to the point where they were having dreams of being abducted, and yet they couldn't remember, but he was bringing out what they call hidden memories of things. Right. And this movie was made called Intruders, that was based upon his book, and it starred Richard Crenna as the psychologist who wanted to investigate abductions. And if you ever get a chance to see this movie called Intruders, it originally was made for TV, but it's available on DVD. Okay. You should get it. And then this one here, I'm still reading, but very interesting. Faces of the Visitors.
Now, this is what we commonly call the Greys? Is kind of what you were seeing?
Well, where's my glasses? Yeah, it was very similar to that. Very, very similar.
Did they have the long, slender necks?
Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah, yes. This has got some great, you know. Look at this, fairy creature. Yeah. These are things people have described and witnessed. You know, it's just very interesting. But yeah.
That looks like our creature from the Black Lagoon.
Well, actually, that's the mutant from this island Earth. And
gotcha.
You saw the mask out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is really good. Oh yeah, look here. Take a look at this. This is another one that's kind of popular. Roswell. See?
Yeah.
So this is a good book about Faces of the Visitors. But
now that you've started writing, have you thought about trying to write a book yourself about your experiences?
Funny you asked that, because I was at MUFON in Pittsburgh and had talked to the guests there. That's where I met Travis Walton.
Yeah.
And there was a doctor there, and he who had a doctor of psychology who had patients come to him about this sort of thing. And I talked to him privately, personally, and he told me, he said, Dave, he said, you should write a book about all your experiences. You should write a book. And, you know, I I was like, well, but you're the second person in my life to ask me that, and I don't know why I haven't, but maybe I will. Maybe that'll be my last bucket list thing to do. Maybe I should.
Nothing else. It's going to help chronicle, and I mean, it could help with the past thoughts of it.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I guess it's a wrap.